Welcome to Faded Hand podcast number 6. We're going to continue going through the tier 2 classes, and we'll pick up right from where we left off, which was with Mystic, a tier 2 magic class, and the second perk, Insight. So, Insight. Once per turn, on your turn, you may pay 1 movement cost in order to reveal the stats and perks of a targeted creature. I really like this. I think it's really fun because I like to imagine the Mystic like eerily like with a ball or something, like looking at a creature and then just knowing something about it mysteriously, and I really think that's fun. Role playing and combat wise, it's really good to know what the defense value is or what special perk they have.
Yeah, I've intentionally included scouting perks into this game that are designed to let you scout your opponents and find out their strength. It's one of the things that bothers me in some tabletop RPGs. Actually, most of them. Almost none of them give you like a scout creature ability.
Yeah.
Not even as like a class ability, which seems strange.
It does seem weird, yeah.
It feels like that would be a really good, like, isn't there a class called Diviner or something in D&D?
Yeah, well there's the School of Divination. But that's more about like future, like foresight stuff about into the future.
I feel like it should tell me if someone's weak to wisdom or whatever.
Yeah, it should tell you that.
I feel like that's a good gameplay opportunity that's being dropped.
Even like Ranger, who is all about, even the like Monster Hunter one, I think they might have something like, like where they're like native to or something like that, or like where they like spawn and things like that. But I really just want something that can make you feel like, oh, I look at this thing and I understand it, and then it's like bam, you like got the lock on it. And
that's the point of Insight.
Insight is what that does. All right, next up, our Insight's really simple, but I just really like it.
I've got Arcane Riposte.
Arcane Riposte, we have already gone through that. Same thing as Scholar, the defense successfully draw an alt card.
And you can cast a spell.
Oh yeah, and cast a spell. All right, next up, Sorceress. Joe, you read this one?
Sorceress. We also talked about this one. This one's also on
yeah. Not this. Forgot. Yeah, I was gonna let you read it because birthday mechanic.
Birthday mechanics.
Yep. Scholar and Mystic both get the birthday mechanics. Mystic, Unsettling Gaze. At the end of your turn, the bad language, but writing wise. At the end of your turn,
that's right. The visible enemy which you have most recently targeted.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't finish it. The visible enemy which you have most recently targeted, or failing that, the nearest enemy takes 1 strike malice and 1 speed malice. Joe, do you want to talk more about this one?
Yeah, this is supposed to play into Mystic's game plan of drawing out the battle and remaining present. Whereas Scholar is kind of supposed to be like a
machine gun sort of.
Yeah, like a machine gun and burnout kind of character. The Mystic is supposed to kind of be the last person to go down, and they want to get in. They want to get involved and like keep people in the battle for quite a long time. And this is supposed to encourage them to do that and help them do that. It gives them strike and speed malice, so they're going to be getting weaker at hitting and slower at moving, but not weaker for you to hit. So it's going to sort of cripple them over time while you stare at them.
I really like that. And so that actually finishes out all of Mystic's all of Mystic's level perks. One thing that I actually really like is so Mystic goes into Cleric, and one thing that you can do is all of Mystic's perk you can actually reskin as like holy magic really well, and I like that. So like Unsettling Gaze, instead of creepily looking at them, you're looking at them like a preacher looking at a prostitute, and you're like, I know. Well, you know,
yeah, I thought about this.
Yeah,
we drew the class tree first before writing the perk, so I was like, okay, all of Mystic's stuff has to be unclear, whether it's like dark magic or whether it's divine like power.
Yeah, the only one that's a little bit unclear is Dark Gate, but I really think that's fine. Like, whatever.
If it doesn't fit in your roleplay, don't take it. That's the way I see it. You can do a couple things that are kind of way out of roleplay for Cleric, and what I would say is if your Cleric would be a heretical kind of guy, then do it. Otherwise, don't take those.
Or you can just kind of reskin it like narratively. Like the thing is called Dark Gate, but you could call it like, I don't know, like Holy Door or something like that. I don't care.
I kind of think the theme of it, the slightly dishonest cleric fits really well.
That is also very funny.
It's like, oh yeah, he's a cleric. Ignore the dark magic he does.
When he was younger, he did a little bit more dark magic.
Ignore his evil teleport move. That's not God's will, but it is his will. So
he's a changed man. All right, we're gonna keep going through the tier 2, so we're gonna skip over this. This table will probably get reformatted at some point.
Yeah, this table is the order I wrote them in.
Yeah.
So I was on a roll with the magic classes. We just did those.
We just kept going. So next we move on to Soldier. Soldier is in my mind the most direct upgrade from Lout. Like I like Guard and I think Guard's fun, but like in my mind, Lout goes straight into Soldier.
Soldier's supposed to be like the jack of all trades of all trades. Like he's right in the center of the class tree, and he's in the center of the game too.
He's in the center of the game.
If you don't know if you would play fighter, you'll just pick Soldier. That's your kind of idea.
And Soldier's fun. I think Fighter in D&D is also fun. And I think Fighter's fun because people think they've played a fighter and they haven't. And that's factual.
I kind of think good equals fun for a lot of people. People think unique equals fun.
Sure.
People don't really want to play unique. People want to play good. They want to go in there and win. And if you want to go in there and win, I really think Soldier's a strong pick.
See, I think that you're actually the opposite. You like unique because
I will eat losses.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying other people don't really like unique. I will lose the game to do something weird.
You played so much Scholar, and let's be honest, like in those battles that we played, like playtesting, you were having so much fun. You were casting all your stuff. You were not getting kills.
Scholar's good sometimes. Magic is more fun than it is good in this game.
Yeah, which
I think is accurate. Yeah. See, a large part of Faded Hand is supposed to be trying to be accurate to what the real world would feel like. And this isn't totally possible because magic isn't real. So I can't make magic realistic to how it is in real life because then it wouldn't be in the game. But if it were in real life in the way that I'm kind of imagining it, I imagine it would be really unreliable and difficult to actually fight with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it ends up in the game.
Yeah, and I really like that. And I like that it's like decent. Like nobody's gonna be like, oh, magic sucks. You should never play a magic class. But definitely it's inconsistent.
There'll be magic defenders. Like if this game had a big community, there would be a group that's like, magic sucks. It doesn't actually help. Just make your team all soldiers. And then the magic defenders would come into the chat and be like, well, if you draw these cards and then you get these spells and you pick and learn these spells, then you can make this awesome combo that's unbeatable. Like they would just be writing paragraphs in the comments about how magic is actually good. And I'm intentionally encouraging this.
Yes, for sure. All right, so Soldier. Skilled in sword and bow, the soldier has honed a degree of martial prowess. Promotes to man-at-arms and duelist. Affinities: simple arms, light arms, medium arms, heavy arms, light ranged, heavy ranged, light armor, medium armor, shields.
So notice with the tiers, now that we're into the tier 2s, I'm starting to describe the classes as actually being good at something. All of the tier 1s and tier 0s, the description kind of makes you a joke. It makes you sound like a not very serious character.
You're new.
At starting at tier 2, we'll describe you like you're cool.
Hey, you gotta play the game to get to tier 2. That way you can be cool. So +2 strike, +1 defense, +1 speed, kind of going along with the like all around like good at what you're doing sort of vibe. And the class perk Studied Sword. Studied Sword, gain +2 strike, +2 defense when opposing a creature using a weapon in which you have proficiency. So I love Studied Sword. Studied Sword is extremely fun because it lets you use, because remember that you had to have come from Lout, and Lout gets the perk Attentive, which lets them pay attention and then rack up a bunch of proficiencies and weapons. Now you get to cash those out by saying, oh, I'm fighting this guy with a dagger. I know how to use a dagger. I know what he's going to do. And it's so much fun.
Yeah, the soldier line from this point onward begins to directly emphasize the weapon versatility of the game. Basically the game plan for soldier is supposed to be to have a good spread of weapons in his pockets and always pick the perfect one. And Studied Sword gives him a little sugar for doing that because if you learn a bunch of weapons, there's a high chance you'll face opponents who are using them, and then you'll be able to just kick their asses is the idea.
Yeah. And I remember it was really cool. One of our playtester was playing a soldier, and halfway through the fight, you were fighting somebody with a halberd, I think. And halfway through the fight, he gained proficiency because he had been engaged with them for so long, and there had been multiple of them. He gained proficiency with the halberd, and then immediately was able to like defend, riposte, and then on his next turn kill them, and it was just so satisfying to watch.
Yeah, that was a really good moment. He turned the fight around from gaining 1 knowledge point because that activated Studied Sword.
Yeah, it was so good. I really loved that. All right, let's just start going down these level perks. Upper Hand. When you are attacked and the difference between your strike and theirs is 2 or greater, you may immediately riposte before resolving the original attack. You want to elaborate on this one?
Yeah, this one's like that one Fire Emblem ability, Vantage. That's what it is. I was thinking of that Fire Emblem ability, and I was like, that's a cool ability. I want that in this game. So it's supposed to be the idea that you're so aggressive when someone attacks you, you hit them first, and your strike has to be 2 higher, which means you got to have high strike. But if you want this if this is your game plan, then you're gonna do that. I like it, and I think it's really balanced and fun. It adds an interesting layer of your plan.
Yeah, and one thing that I actually think is pretty cool about Upper Hand is like, it seems like it's like when I first read it, I was like, oh, that's way too good. But reading that the difference between your strike is 2 or greater, that means that if they're striking with, this is a soldier tier 2 combat, they could reasonably strike with 11, right? That means that your strike has to be 13 or higher. That's a really high strike. And to get that high, you would have had to probably sacrifice defense.
It's most useful if you're fighting like a horde of shit enemies. Like if you're attacked by like a horde of something like rats, and you might use this to just become invincible to them because you have high strike and they have nothing. They attack you and you riposte them. Maybe they're summons, so you just erase the summons one by one. So it lets you sort of just erase small enemies on counterattacks. I wouldn't think it to be the most useful against like big enemies.
Yeah. I really like it. I think it's really fun of like somebody like going at you to like charge, and then you're just like, no, boom! You just like knock them out. All right. Upper Hand. Pursuer. When an enemy with which you are engaged breaks the engagement, before or after you attempt to riposte, you may optionally follow your target a number of tiles up to your base speed. Cool question. I forget about this. For base speed, is that your bonus that you gain to speed?
Yeah, base speed is basically your speed minus the card you played to it.
Okay, yeah. That's what I thought.
And bonuses from perks.
Yes. So I think Pursuer is
but I think weapon. I think your weapon gets counted as base. We should clarify exactly.
We should clarify base speed in there.
Or maybe I should come up with a different word for things like this, because the point of base speed rather than like something related to speed is I didn't want to make you do that calculation. Like I could say it's your speed divided by 4, and that'd be pretty close. But then you have to divide your speed by 4 when you use this in battle, and I don't want to make you just like be coming up with remainders, and like it's a little too much. So I wanted you to just have one static number that it always did for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to clarify base speed, but usually this would mean at most like 2 or 3 tiles. That's usually what that would mean. I think Pursuer's fun. I really like Pursuer.
Pursuer's fun. I do think it's kind of niche. Like, it actually is good, but you have to have an expectation that they'll do this.
Yeah. I think that yeah.
Yeah, and you have to. It has to fit into a wider game plan in a way that I really like as a perk. Like this one doesn't give you a game plan. This one enhances a potential flaw in your plan. Where like you notice that people just kind of run away from you and accept the riposte, and you're like, no, I'm gonna stick to them.
Yeah, I really think that this would actually be really good in a combat with a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Because like, somebody grabs the special diamond and starts running away. It's like, no, I keep going after him. Yeah. I think that's really, I think it's niche, but one thing that I really like is that a lot of the level perks can be niche because you only have to take 3 of these to actually move on to a tier 3. So if you see 2 of these and you're like, I don't like this, you don't have to take them to keep going.
Yeah, I try to avoid writing perks that are just like super awesome on their own, especially for the tier 2s. Like I want you to have to like read it and think about how it could be great for you. Like ideally every perk gives you a little bonus on its own, but it could be just awesome if you found the right situation and the right build to make it perfect.
Yeah. All right, next up, Feint. Once per turn, when you attack in melee, reveal the cards and stats of your opponent. You may choose to cancel your attack after revealing this information. Do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, so this is another scouting perk. And I think it makes sense because Soldier's supposed to be the sword play focused character, and this lets you feint your attack, so you can start an attack, find out their stats, and then choose whether you want to follow up with it or not. Yeah. And this is one of those that works really well with 1-2, You don't have access to it at this point, but several of the tier 3 classes you can pick do. Then you can 1, feint them, and then 2, do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I like feint. I like feint. I like all the reveal stuff, but I also just love the role playing aspect of feint. I would just be like, oh, and then just like dodging away or something like that. I really like that. I really like feint. I think it's fun. All right, next up, think fast.
This one's interesting.
Whenever anyone other than yourself is disarmed or drops an object adjacent to you, you may grab the object out of the air and immediately wield it. If it is a weapon, you may make one immediate free attack. If multiple creatures attempt to employ this perk in competition, break the tie by speed and then base speed and then a coin flip.
Let's see, I covered my bases.
Yeah, you go down the tier. You're like, okay, it's a turn by speed. They have the same speed. It's a turn by base speed. They have the same base speed.
I refuse to let them look. I'll make everything else vague, but I refuse to let them get confused on this point.
I really like Think Fast. I think that this actually applies to the thing you were saying earlier about Pursuer.
Yeah.
Where it's specifically a thing that you have to notice that this happens a lot.
Yeah, you have to be like you have to have an expectation that this situation is going to happen. Like a good example is that there are other characters who have perks that disarm, and what you would probably do is notice that your friend is disarming people a lot, and then take this and follow up on the disarmaments.
Yeah. I also think that it would be good at role playing if you notice that your friend is, or like, I forget who has some of those. I forget who has some of those. But if one of your companions is going to get one of those perks that has the throwing thing, I think it's really good role playing if you and them, like, out of combat in, like, downtime or something, like, practice this, and then when you both have the perks, you guys can do that again in combat. And I really like that.
I also think of it as being intentionally a good MacGuffin battle mechanic. Like, when the MacGuffin's flying around, my reading of this rule would imply that you auto grab. If someone's like, "Whoa, the magical gem!" Like you can point to this perk and argue that you perfectly grab it every time.
And I support that. We support that. Yeah, I really like Think Fast. MacGuffin battles are always fun, so I think it's fun to have mechanics that work with them.
My one fear with this is that it might be a little too niche. What I may need to do is make disarming a general mechanic. Like like the perks that disarm are a better version of disarming, but like there should be a standard way for you to get disarmed.
There's a kitty cat.
Just to make this kind of useful.
Yeah.
This is our buddy Slink.
This is Slink.
All right, where are we?
All right, that is Think Fast. Tactical Maneuver. I think I like Tactical Maneuver. After you attack or defend, but before any riposte occur, you may move one tile in any direction. If you move out of the enemy's range, the engagement is broken. If you were the attacker, you have +2 defense against the resulting riposte. If you were the defender, neither can riposte. Yeah, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so this is like the opposite end of I was talking about how I try to avoid giving you a perk that's too like awesome on its own. Basically, every perk either gives you like a small bonus, but it's reliable, or it does something really cool, but it's not reliable. This is the small bonus, but not that very reliable, but not that impressive.
Yeah.
It just lets you move a lot, and movement's kind of expensive in this game, so this is really good. Yeah. But it doesn't give you terribly much direct combat ability. Although the defense against ripostes on your attacks is actually quite good.
Yeah. Well, if you move out.
Yeah, if you move back, but it lets you model like darting in and coming back out.
I like Tactical Maneuver. Once again, I actually just like all of the I like all the perks for role playing. I think they're all really good.
I don't think there's a lot of perks that you don't like because you would have asked them to be changed if you didn't like them.
If I reach a perk and I'm like, this is a dud, we would just change it.
Yeah,
right?
All the perks got reviewed by the team, and anything that Greg didn't like, I wrote most of these. I came up with most of the ideas for them, and anything that Greg didn't say like, on, I scratched that out. I wrote something else.
Tactical Maneuver. I think it's fun, and I think Gabe also used it.
Gabe loves that one.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because it goes from you being a lout where you're pretty much just like stuck in one position, watching everybody fight and you occasionally get a swing in, to being like a soldier where you're dancing all over the battlefield doing a bunch of cool sword techniques, and I really like that. All right, next up. Oh, that is all of
That's all soldier's perks.
That's
yeah.
all of soldier.
Now remember, if you were playing soldier, you would probably be expected to get 3 of those before classing up.
Yes.
So when you think of those powers, think of having any 3 of them, and that should be about your model for what your build would be.
Yes. Also, I don't think that we've specified this. These bonuses right here, you can only have one from a class at a time, usually your highest class. So, for example, if you go from Lout up to Soldier, Lout gives you 1 strike, 1 defense. You lose that bonus and gain this bonus. The class up is always better. So it's just so you won't have like plus 8 defense from your classes. It's just the static one.
There's
from
only
each
a
class.
few situations where you can have a stat go down from classing up, and those are accompanied by a much better increase to another stat.
Yes. All right. That is Soldier. Next up, Guard, the other promotion for Lout. Guard. At the point of spear and brunt of shield, the Guard brings learned caution to the battlefield, promotes to mana arms and bonebreaker, affinities simple arms, medium arms, heavy arms, great arms, light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, and shields. So affinities wise, loses the ranged affinities that Soldier has, but gains the heavy arms, or gains great arms and heavy armor affinities, which is nice. 2 speed and 2 defense bonuses on the class side, and the class perk proactive defense. When an opponent moves into your attack range and their speed is not greater than your own by 3 or more, you may make an immediate riposte on them. This stops their movement if it succeeds. So this is pretty much just like Sentinel from D&D, a feat that a lot of people hate, but is actually one of the best feats in the game.
Wait, people hate it because they don't pick it, you're saying?
No, people hate it because
It's too good?
Yeah, people hate it because it removes other options.
Well, I think the problem is that most D&D feats are kind of bad. Like, I think Sentinel should be the model power for a feat, in my mind. Like, Sentinel's it gives you a little juice, and it gives you a game plan, right? I think that should be the other feats are shit like you're really good at cleaning your toenails.
Yeah, there are some really dope feats. I think that the reason that this happens in D&D is because they do what we've chosen to separate out, whereas a feat in D&D can either be one of our perks or it can be one of our talents.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna go harder though. Like, I know what you mean, where the feats are commingled, but even accounting for that, even the other combat feats in D&D are nowhere close to Sentinel. Like the other combat ones are like the bleeder one where you make people bleed, or like the edged weapon one.
Yeah, the like slasher.
Yeah,
and things like that.
You're
better with
those. Those are lame and bad. Not only are they not cool, they don't even add a lot. They're not even worth like a lot number of wise. I really hate them, and I unabashedly will take Sentinel almost every time because it's the only one that's tolerable.
What? Hey, well, the more you know. I like other feats too. But yes, this is similar to Sentinel from D&D, and it's pretty self-explanatory to what it is. I think it really just, like all the class perks, it locks in what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be the guy at the front that keeps everybody behind you safe. It lets you like walk next to a door or walk into like a big gate with like a spear or something and just say no one enters this. Yeah. And I think it's really good.
So yeah, so guard is the class you would go into if you want to make your character a big fat tank.
Yeah. All right. Level perks, here we go. Staunch. When you successfully defend, cleanse up to 2 defense malice after the riposte is decided. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so this one is like an ultra tank perk, because what it does is it makes your defense recover when you're attacked. So you're going to come up against opponents who will want to pummel you. Like, you've seen that there are pummel moves in this game that...
Such as ruffian trees, yeah.
That unconditionally hit you with malices, and this is like this is the Uno reverse card to those. Is this one says, oh no, unless you're doing a ton of malice to me, I'm just going to hold on forever.
Yeah. It gives... The guard has a lot of staying power. And in our playtest, guard is almost always the last one to go down, or actually is always the last one to go down. But the part where guard struggles is actually landing the final blow. But I think that's kind of like
That's the
symbolic.
point.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. But yeah, well, the party that we were using for the team comp that we had the garden was really weird.
When people don't show up, the team gets weird.
Yeah.
If there's an absence, suddenly all the expectations that people set up are not true anymore.
The playtest we did was you were playing a guard.
Yeah.
And then we had a soldier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a one guard and one soldier, and it was just very weird. I liked it, and I thought it was fun, but it was interesting.
You also gave us battles of like against 3 opponents.
True. Yeah.
Which seemed like kind of balanced, but actually that makes us overwhelmed by 1.5, which is when you put it that way, you realize why it's so difficult to win.
Yeah. But it was still fun. All right. Next up, press forward. Press forward. When you attack in melee and your opponent fails to riposte, you may shove them 1 tile away from you and optionally follow them, maintaining the same distance. If this would move them into a wall, they suffer 2 strike malice and 2 defense malice. If they would move into another creature, the creature behind them suffers the same.
Shove move.
Shove move.
We love shoves.
We love shoves. Shove moves are so much fun, and since movement costs so much, it actually makes it really fun. It makes it really cool.
Really, our model is that every time players do something that moves pieces on the board,
people like moving things on the board.
Yeah, moving stuff on the board is fun. Having to think about like the way things line up is fun, and this perk gives you all of that.
I think that if we just had a perk that was just you get to draw lines on the board and did literally nothing like gameplay wise, I think people would still take it. I think people were like, I get to put something on the board. It doesn't do anything, but you can do it. Oh, I'll take that one.
Graffiti perk.
Yes, you can. It's a technique. You can substitute your action, and you can put graffiti on the ground. Draw this on the board. People would take it. People would take that, and I like that. All right, that's press forward. I really like press forward because it also gives a way for the guard to like actually move forward in the battle versus if there's like a wall of opponents, he can just like attack and then like start moving the entire wall backwards, and I really like that.
Yeah.
All right, that's press forward. Next up is Bulwark. Bulwark. When you are targeted in melee, your attacker immediately suffers 2 speed malice. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, this is another like one of those Uno reverse type perks where you're expect to get hammered on by like tons of enemies, and you want to just like punish them every time for it. It's like the reverse of Pummel, really, where Pummel's like, you hit them no matter what, they take something. This is like they hit you. No matter what, they take something.
Yeah. I really like Bulwark just because, first of all, Bulwark's a fun word, and I think that's cool. Second, I like the idea of somebody just, like, coming at you and just having to work so hard to even get close. Like, they have to suffer just so they can have the chance to even hit you. All right. That is Bulwark, Hammer, and Anvil. Hammer and Anvil is cool. Once per engagement, when your ally attacks an enemy with which you are engaged from a direction different than that from which you are engaging them, that ally gains +3 strike. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so this game doesn't have a standard backstab mechanic. Like, there's no such thing as flanking. Just because it seemed hard to... The problem with flanking is that it's so intuitive and natural that, like, if you and your friend attack the same guy from 2 different directions, that your attack should be better somehow.
Yeah.
But the problem is, this happens so much in games that it's hard to like give it a reasonable balance for like what that would exactly do.
Yeah. When I started DMing D&D, I don't think I did it with you guys, but I was just like, oh, if 2 people are attacking the same one, like they pretty much everyone had pact tactics where if 2 people are attacking them and their allies, they each gain advantage on their attacks, and it was just insane.
Like that like makes intuitive sense so much, but it doesn't work in the context of this kind of game.
Yeah.
But this is kind of our way of squaring that circle, is that it is good. God damn it. Spam risk from California. God damn it. Now I have to edit this one.
No, that's all right.
Anyway, where were we?
Cool. So I just want to make sure we're still recording. So that kind of, it just, and one thing that I like is that it's a way, because +3 strike is a lot of strike.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice that...
It's a way for guard to bring some offensive power somehow.
It brings offensive power, but also, versus in it's not just a regular like, oh, two people are attacking, so it's better.
Yeah.
It actually means that like guard is trained at this.
Yeah.
Like guard's good at like
Yeah,
putting up a shield or something, so that the other person goes to attack and just like bam.
The idea is supposed to be, I think, that he'll kind of like try to shield bash them at the same time as the attack is gonna land, so that they're like, whoa, and then they get stabbed in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. Hammer and Anvil is very cool. Next up, Crushing Counter. Straight up, just good. Crushing Counter. Your opponent deals double the normal effects. That's just good. That just represents you being very good at defending.
You know, I like all of Guard's perks, but then I like all of Soldier's perks. Like, having seen them now, I feel like Soldier has a few, like, must picks, and I feel like Guard doesn't have any must picks. I might want to talk about Soldier's perks and, like, rethink them to make them have the same feeling as Guards. Where Soldier has some that are like, oh, that's a cool idea, I might get that later, and then some that are like, I need this right now.
You gotta have that.
Whereas Guards, everyone of Guards is like, oh, that's interesting, I could use that, let's use that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that they're bad, but I
that.
feel like they could use some tweaks to make them more like the way Guards works.
Yeah. So, all the stuff that we're saying does always have the chance to change, but most likely a lot of it will stay similar. One thing that we were talking about was changing how students' inspiration worked. We still haven't quite decided on where we landed on that.
Just because we say we'll change something doesn't mean it's going to change.
Yeah.
I think inspiration is probably going to stay similar. I think the suggestion that I made that we were going to go with, that you get to pick which cards you draw, I think that's that's a fine improvement.
Yeah, I like that. I do really love that perk that
I liked your new idea. I just think
I don't know where it fits.
I don't know where it fits. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also don't know what the once per fight nature of it. I kind of like the idea of it being smaller in scope, but eternal, and you like share cards with like an adjacent friend.
That could be a decent tier 4 half caster sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like an upgrade from Mana Arms.
Then it could be called like teamwork or something.
Yeah.
Like I like the idea of like, oh, you're the chosen one and that shines through for just a moment. But the problem is like, it's hard to fit that into like this.
Yeah. Oh, if you ever hear us say anything about tier 4, you may notice.
Greg, you know where that would go? That would go in a unique DLC class.
Yes. If you ever hear us talking about tier 4s, you may notice that we don't actually have any tier 4s on here. That's because they don't exist yet. They're just in our minds.
The goal is for there to be 4 tiers. Maybe even 5 tiers. Maybe there'd be some that are allowed to promote.
We decided that everyone will have an option to get to tier 4, and then maybe
if we feel like it, there might be some classes that can promote really high. We haven't talked about the power scaling yet.
No, we have not.
This game tries to have low power scaling. I know people in like the anime world say this phrase power scaling a lot.
Yeah.
I actually hate power scaling in stories. I hate it because it creates this situation where the story is no longer based around like the emotional core of like what the character's doing, and instead it's focused on like this weird made up numbers battle.
Yeah.
Like the stupid Dragon Ball Z stuff. Like, oh yeah, what was Goku's power at the beginning of the Namek Saga? Well, based on these other characters that he fought, his power was 187. I think that's completely stupid, and I also think it's almost like weirdly accepting the story's bad framing. Like the story frames this. I know now we're just talking about Dragon Ball Z on our podcast, but this is a podcast, so we can do what we want.
Sure.
The story frames power levels.
If they've watched 33 minutes, then they can watch a minute of
Dragon Ball Z frames power levels as a dumb thing that Frieza's army believes in.
Yeah.
And that the story makes it clear that Goku doesn't really take it seriously, and he doesn't think power levels are real. So I think it's funny that the fandom has collectively decided to accept Frieza's idea instead of Goku's idea, that it's all about like your heart and your spirit. Like they just missed the point of the story.
They really just missed that arc.
But this game tries to, and I also don't really love power scaling in games. Honestly, kind of for a similar reason, that I think it discounts the characters, it discounts the players' achievements and the players' ingenuity in favor of just sort of making you have a numbers battle with your opponents. So this game does kind of have power scaling, where like you do become stronger, but that strength increase is not super large. Like it's completely plausible for a tier 1 character to bring down tier 3 character. It's not at all outside of reason.
I think that the thing that I also really like is that, like, I was just looking through here, the highest anyone gets to any stat, except for speed, because speed is usually less directly combat focused.
Speed is 1/3. Think of speed as being 1/3.
is like +2. I think like somebody might +3 strike. That's the highest
+3 is
anyone
exceptional.
gets,
Yeah.
right? That means one thing that I really like is that means that people mostly get directly strong. They get a little bit stronger through just like practice and learning, but the main way they get stronger is through learning other things. Like in D&D, if there's a 5th level character, if there's a level 1 character and you meet a town guard, you and that town guard will probably go toe to toe and you'll probably win, right? That same guard, when you're level 5, you could literally
Reduce him to ash.
Yeah, it's not even, you don't even have to, like, if there's an encounter and you're fighting a guard and there's another enemy, you will just leave the guard for the end of the match, because at most it'll do 6 hit points a round, right? At most. So versus this, because you, first of all, you never get any more hit points except for with a later
There's only one way
berserker.
to get. There's one way to get one more hit point.
Yeah. That guard, you still have to pay attention to it. And I think that's a lot more realistic, where it's like, oh yeah, one guy with a spear, he's not great, but he can still stab you. Like, it's not, yeah. So that's kind of where we split. That finishes up all of guards and all of Lout's promotions. Come back next time. See ya.